Okay, everybody, this is my spoiler review of House of the Dragon Episode 8, Lord of the Tides. Please, no book spoilers per usual, only stuff we've already seen in the books. Leave everything else somewhere else, please, in the comments. So we got another time jump here, which I did not expect, and we see that it's been 6 years since Rhaenys has seen Corlys, and that he has been wounded, and he has a fever, and there's literally burns from within, and that he will be returning to Driftmark in 3 days, but in really bad condition, and it's not looking good. This sets the stage for Vaemond this episode, Corlys' brother, and you see he's calling out Rhaenys about the truth of the situation that everybody really knows deep down, that Rhaenyra's children aren't actually Valyrian blood or Laenor's blood, and he is like, my brother only cares for the history books. What of the Valyrian line? So it's really setting a nice job of how much Vaemond cares about keeping that pure Valyrian blood and line going, and in an honorable way. Not in a way that is giving up his house, that throne, to someone who's not really a Valyrian. We also learned, too, that what's going on in King's Landing is that Alicent is the one who is subbing right now for the king right now, as the king is really on his last legs here. And also a little information we find is that Daemon has found that Syrax has laid 3 new eggs, so we're gonna have a lot of dragons here. And what's also wild is we see Rhaenyra is pregnant, but that she already had 2 kids before this kid that she's pregnant with Daemon already, Viserys and Aegon. And of course he names one of the kids Aegon because, again, that is his idol. But you see Jace here is learning High Valyrian as fast as he can, and this is where Rhaenyra's like, just chill, you know, what are you planning to skip me in line to be on the throne, basically? And I hope that's not some sort of foreshadowing there that would happen. But you see how passionate Jace is about really embracing his future as king. But we see that Daemon and Rhaenyra has been given word of what's going on in Driftmark, and that Luke's legitimacy to being the Lord of the Tides is being challenged. And this is problematic because that will just, by extension, she says, challenge Jace and her claim to the throne. So they know they must go to King's Landing now. But you see when they get there, Rhaenyra is announced as the heir to the throne. It's supposed to be this royal entrance, but Alicent doesn't even come down to greet her, and we learn from the council meeting that Otto and her purposely did that is what they feel like they deserve as a greeting. And we see when the council's talking about what's happening in Driftmark and who should be on that throne, that they mention that Corlys never formally announced Luke as heir. He just said that's his wants. So that can come into play later on too, for sure, if the Maester's kind of angling it that way. Now we see Rhaenyra and Daemon go to the king's chambers. It broke my heart to see Viserys Lego set has cobwebs on it. Very, very sad. And when they bring up what's going on in Driftmark to Viserys, he's like, oh, Otto will take care of it. Go to him. And Daemon's like, no, we're not going to Otto, because he knows what the High Towers want. So he's like, we need you here. We need you to affirm your position. So it shows how dire the situation is for Rhaenyra and Daemon to get what they want, and they need Viserys big time. And this was a nice moment where she shows Viserys that she had more kids, and that one of them is named after him. And this is also when Daemon notices they're giving Viserys the milk of the poppy. So this is where they're going to accuse Alicent of drugging the king for the High Tower's motivations and needs. Now, before we get to that scene, I do want to get to the scene where we first see Alicent with the servant Tiano. And we learn that Aegon raped her, and Alicent believes her and is like, here's some money and here's some baby preventing tea. Don't say a word of this. No one's going to believe you anyway. And this is also really bad for Aegon because he has a wife who happens to be his sister, Helena. And now we see Alicent goes to yell at the new Aegon, and rightfully so. But here's the thing. My first recast I don't like is this actor of Aegon, and it's nothing against the actor himself. It's how they casted him as not as goofy as the original Aegon that I began to like. Like, he's completely different vibes to me. I didn't really feel this. I almost felt like I thought the Aegon before looked old enough in a way. Why not just keep him? But she gives him a nice slap to the face, and he's like, you're no son of mine. And if she has this muddy relationship with Aegon, we'll see. That could also leave a door open for Aegon switching sides at some point. But you see, when Alicent first greets Rhaenyra and Daemon, the first thing she looks at is the cut she gave Rhaenyra. Everything gets chippy here, calling her out about the drugging and the High Towers warming the throne. And they get chippy with her about taking down the Targaryen symbols all around the castle. But she's just basically like, the father's forgiving, so I'll ignore those accusations. But I'm also making the call on the Driftmark situation, which is not good for Rhaenyra and Daemon. Now, it's interesting, we cut to the kids now, and Luke and Jace are going to the fighting grounds they have trained in before. And this is where you see the difference between Luke and Jace is Luke, since we've met the character, is very self-aware of his surroundings. He's very emotionally intelligent in most cases, except with his bullying problem, of course. But he's very self-aware. He's like, everyone's staring at me. It's because I look more like Harwin than I do Rhaenys. But what's great about this scene is we get to see from the back who is fighting Criston, and it is Aemond. And Aemond is a complete crazy badass now. He's got the cool eye patch, and he's actually out fighting Criston. And Criston even says, you're going to be ready for tourneys. He's like, I don't even care about tourneys, which makes Aemond already just seem way cooler. Talk about a character's power rankings going up in the Game of Thrones universe. Aemond's just shot up the roof here in this episode for sure. So now Vaemond shows up to King's Landing. He talks to Otto and Alicent, and this is where Otto is telling Alicent, like, look, we have a threat of this war looming. You really want a kid commanding this fleet? And Vaemond's like, we'll be deeply in your debt, and he's going to have her back, basically, if she lets him be the Lord of the Tides. And this is a tough spot for Alicent, because as much as she wants to do this, and it makes sense for her and Otto, it is going to ruffle feathers with Rhaenyra and cause chaos and another war on that side. But now we get a scene what's very important with Rhaenyra and Princess Rhaenys, and she's telling Rhaenys, like, I did not kill your son. I loved your son, which is completely true in both parts. And she makes a brilliant offer to Rhaenys. This is where Rhaenyra is playing the game great. She's like, you back Luke's claim, and I will marry Lyanna's children to mine. This gets a little confusing because there's so much marrying going on. You're trying to follow who's in what family. So basically, it's Rhaenyra and Harwin's kids marrying Daemon and Lyanna's kids here. Just a lot of crazy incest going on. And Rhaenys likes the deal, but she's like, look, you are screwed tomorrow anyway. The High Towers are just going to win this. And that's where you see Rhaenyra, rightfully so, panics and knows she has to do something else, and she goes to talk to King Viserys at night. And it's crazy that when she sees Viserys, he actually, in his confusion, thinks it's Alicent at first, which we'll get the reversal at the end of the episode, where when Alicent actually shows up to him, he thinks it's Rhaenyra. And he'll actually end his conversation he was supposed to end with Rhaenyra in this scene with Alicent later on. So it's just brilliant setup and payoff. Because she asks him, the Song of Ice and Fire, do you believe it to be true? And again, this is talking about what we'll end up eventually seeing happen in Game of Thrones, and the North and the winter is coming. And she gets a lot of grievances out here too, where she's like, you told me our duty to hold the realm together against a common foe, with this kept secret between them and that responsibility that comes with it. But by naming me the heir, you divided the realm. And she's like, I thought I wanted it, but the burden is a heavy one, which is a huge line. It really gets us into how much Rhaenyra has changed in that sense. And she's like, well, if you want me to do this, to keep this duty and keep the realm together, do what I was going to do and keep this secret, defend me and my children. She's like, I need you to speak up now. And she's just heartbroken. He's barely living at this point. But it was so huge, she even just talked to him, if anything, connect, to give him that motivation to show up the next day. And what's also important is we see Viserys, who is in excruciating pain, so that wasn't a lie by Alicent, and that he wants a last supper. And this is where, in his pain, he asks Otto not to give him the milk of Poppy. But Otto knows this isn't what he really wants to happen here, because there is that slight chance that he could show up to the court and ruin things, which is exactly what happens, which we're going to get to right now, because we see Otto is the one holding court on the matter of what's happening in Driftmark. And you know that when you're there in this court scene, it's so well planned out, how it's written and how things shift, and that from the start, it's a lock basically for Alicent, Otto, and Vaemond, and they know it, and that it was leaning that way. But Viserys coming in to the court changed everything. It literally changed the tides. But I love that Vaemond's speaking truth here about what his intentions are, what's really going on, that this will destroy his house and not keep it pure and not keep the bloodline going, and it's not fair. And he's absolutely right in everything he's saying to Rhaenyra. And I love that Luke is just literally scared shitless during all this. Like, he doesn't even really want this, and we learned that from his character when he was younger in the last episode. And you see Daemon, when Viserys shows up, is like, come on, like, helping him get to that throne. It's a nice moment when he puts a crown in with all the things they've been through, but he also, Daemon, wants what he wants, right? And he knows they need Viserys badly here. And that's when Viserys is like, why are we even doing this today? We already know how it's supposed to go, and I only want to hear from Rhaenys. And Rhaenys knew here that the tides had shifted when Viserys came in, and that is when she decided in that moment to take the deal with Rhaenyra. And this is when the High Towers were already worried when Viserys came in, but now they were like, oh, we're screwed. Like, we just lost here. And Vaemond is furious. But again, this story with Vaemond's so great this episode because it's so earned in how he behaves, because he's like, you know what? Screw it. I'm saying my piece at this point. That's all he really cares about. And it's the last line here of defense for him. Like, I'm not letting my line go down and my house go down. And he says, I will not see it ended on the account of this. And then Daemon's like, say it. And he goes, her children are bastards and she is a whore. And that is literally what Daemon wanted. That's all he needed Vaemond to say so he could slice his head off. That was a crazy, very Game of Thrones shocking moment. Loved it. So we then get this great scene with Viserys' Last Supper. And what's so fascinating about this scene is that it was actually very healing things going on between the adults. But where the problem it lies is all the mess they've already made in the kids. And you'll see in a lot of after show comments by directors and writers of the show that a big story point of this show is how much adults mess up their children, and it's just inevitable and it's going to happen with everybody. And this show really leans into that, and that the sins of the parents here are now transferring over to the kids, and that as they're making peace with each other and nice things are happening, there's a part here they've been missing is how much it's screwing up their kids and setting up the fight between them and these families. And you see that happening here where as stuff is getting better for the adults, it's really getting worse for the kids. You really see that starting here with Aegon just being a wise ass to Jace. And he's like, well, Jace, you finally get to lay with a woman now. And that will continue on just back and forth between the kids. But I also want to get into Viserys here. Shows his whole face. This incredible, brilliant moment. While literally he's showing his whole face, Paddy Considine is showing everybody how to win an Emmy. And he's making this big speech about knowing basically his death is coming here, that this is his last supper. And he's like, just stop the fighting. I want peace. I love all of you. He's mentioning, look at me like a husband, a father, a brother, not just for the crown, do this for me. And that leads to Rhaenyra and Alicent saying actually nice things about each other. And they bond over being mothers who love their children. And this is a nice callback to really the character of Cersei, who Cersei was someone in all her evilness and being so hateable. What was the one likable thing about Cersei was how much she cared for her children. So what's nice is Viserys wants music played and he gets this beautiful moment where everything he ever wanted is happening, where everyone's getting along at a moment, everyone's happy, they're laughing together, there's peace, and it's a nice, happy moment for him to go out on, and that's when he actually gets super ill and has to leave. And he was the glue holding everyone together for that nice moment, but when he leaves, stuff already starts to go crazy. And that's where I just hate Luke. We've seen him as a bully before, and then he goes ahead and has Aemon served a pig and is laughing at him. And I don't care what side you stand on with Alicent and Rhaenyra and the Blacks and the Greens. I can just say that Aemon, you have to be on his side in this one. He's been bullied to death. He had his eye taken out, and now he's taking shit again from this kid. And I was so happy he stood up and stuck up for himself. And I so badly wanted to see him just take a swing at Luke. And it kind of pauses there and everyone kind of separates the kids, but there's some serious tension going on. I'm excited to see where that all goes. So we see Rhaenyra, though, tells Alicent, again, they're still on better terms in this moment. And she's like, I'm going to bring the kids home, but I will return on Dragonback. So I'm sure we're going to see some sort of Viserys funeral scene next episode with Rhaenyra returning, but the kids staying home. Now, what's also crazy is a character I completely forgot about was Miss Arya, and that she's still in this game here. She's got to spy on the situation of the supper, and that she's going to know now that Viserys is on his way out and where all the cracks are in this whole realm. So then we get to this final scene where Viserys now thinks Alicent is Rhaenyra, finishes the conversation he was having with her, tells her about the Song of Ice and Fire, and he's like, you are the one, you must do this, being the one who unites the realm against the cold and the dark. And Alicent's like, what the fuck? And Alicent, again, a big part of her jealousy too is the relationship that Viserys really, at the end of the day, in big moments, has kind of chosen Rhaenyra over her a lot. Not always, but a lot. And Alicent hates that, and hates that she wasn't in on this little secret. And this is a big thing, especially when Alicent and Rhaenyra start to kind of have some peace. This is going to really set Alicent off. And also, it's crazy. I love how they cut to the dagger that Alicent used against Rhaenyra here. Just signs of things to come. And it's a beautiful moment here where Viserys goes out saying my love, talking to his true love, Emma. It was just an amazing episode, amazing moment for Paddy Considine as Viserys. And this is officially the close of Viserys, the glue that's been holding this house together. Everything's about to fall apart here for sure. This episode to me was my favorite of the season. I thought it was brilliant, and it made me just feel different emotions I haven't felt in a show in a while. I can't even put my thumb in it, but but it was so good. I mean, everything going on is just making you excited for what's to come, and it just feels like a great episode 8 about to set up what should be a crazy penultimate episode of the season. We're actually at the final 2 episodes now. I cannot wait. But let me know what you thought of this episode down below. If you agree with me, if it's the best one. If not, let me know which one was your favorite. And I read every comment. Try to respond as many as I can. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss one of my reviews of House of the Dragon. You can also check out my interviews I've done with Graham McTavish and Gavin Spokes, who plays Lord Lionel Strong, I just did recently. Please follow me at Steve Varley Show on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for more of me. And I'll see you next time.